Good picture, thank you. All right, you are on.
Perfect. We see Kelly, if you want to look at Kelly or want Kelly to feel like we're looking at her, you have to look at the owl.
Look at the owl.
Good morning, Kelly. Hi. All right.
Kitchen.
That means we do have everyone except Holly, which is great. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this lovely August day. I think everyone here has met everyone, right? Would it be helpful to go around? Again, was everyone?
It's been a minute.
It's been a minute. Yeah, let's do a circle. Cool. I don't have a icebreaker question, but my name is Nina. I'm the chair of the CCD. And I'm excited that everyone's here. And we have a solid agenda, but I think we won't take the full hour during these last words. Let's go around this one.
I'm Sam Stefani, she, her pronouns, and yeah, what was the question again?
You have one?
No, I'm very functional this morning. Sam Stefani.
I'm Shane Boyce. I'm new. This is my second meeting. I'm very excited to be here.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Cody Clark,
Barbara McDade. Laverne Stockwell.
Tristan Greenlaw.
Cal Elmore. And I'm Ann Craig. I'm the Director of Community Economic Development.
And Kelly, can you unmute yourself to say hi?
Hi, I'm Kelly Schnau. Nice to meet everyone. I think I've met everybody though, so I'm here.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah,
All right, we'll zoom right through the first few things. Meeting minutes from our last June meeting are included in the packet that everybody got. Does anybody have questions? Thoughts, concerns?
I move they be accepted as printed
I second.
or presented.
All in favor? Great. Done. Financial report. Was not included in our packet. Cool.
Oh, no,
Oh, we'll
financial
do-
report, yeah. The,
Actually, sorry, I skipped the report of the chair. Let's go back to that. My report will mostly fall under October this month. I did want to ask the city a question. The CCD has a Facebook page, but we don't have the login. Do you know who might be able to find the login?
oh, there is a separate October page?
Not
Oh.
October, CCD. page.
Oh, I don't know, but I'll find out.
Great, then we could maybe just cross post some things or set it up so that an Instagram account also posts to that.
Okay,
Great. All right, and yeah, I think everything else will focus on October this month. I'll have lots to say there. So, financial report.
yes, they've entered in, they're entering in right now, all of the budget for the current fiscal year that we're going into. So you had carried over, I think it was 60 cents from last year. And so you've got 20,000 for grants and 2,500 for October
Perfect,
as well.
great. Committee reports. Holly's not here, so we will skip the grant committee, but also I don't think we have any updates. Unless you have an update for Marilee, has that meeting happened yet?
No, I'm meeting with, one of your grant recipients next week who had some, I'm not sure what they are, logistical issues, so what I'll do is I'll pop an email out to let you know what happened
Okay.
after that meeting next
That's
week.
good, yeah. She was the individual who was awarded, I think, $300 in the spring. And her plan was to have an installation in July and.
They're not done yet.
Right, exactly. So we'll just stay tuned on that. Any updates from Cultural Asset Committee?
Quick one, yeah. So I term out at the end of this year. So what I'm gonna do, we haven't met yet, but we're gonna set up a meeting. I'll set out an email up today to everybody, anyone who wants to join. So we'll have to decide a new chair. And then when we do that, I will make sure everyone has logins for all of the asset stuff, because we've got all that set up.
Good, thank you. All right, October. We met a couple weeks ago and got a lot done during our meeting. We published the nomination form for the Bangor Arts Award. That's live. If you haven't seen it yet, let me know. I did send everybody the link. And so far, it's been 2 weeks, I think, a little less than 2 weeks that it's been live, and we've gotten 20 nominations.
Wow,
Which is
yes.
great,
Mhm.
right? Yes, I'm really excited about it. There's quite a few duplicates, so different people nominating the same person, which is also always a good thing.
Yes.
I'd love to push it a little more to see how many more we can get. They're due August 16th. So feel free to say something to your friends, and keep talking about it, and then we'll see how many we get.
Did we put any flyers for
No, so last year we did flyers before the actual October celebration.
that? Okay.
Which we will do again this year. We only have the form online. The city posted about it, we posted about it. Anyone else is welcome to post about it and share. it
We've
with
never
you.
had that many.
No, we haven't. This is only the third year.
Yeah.
No, but
but-
year one, year two.
Right, I think last year we ended up with 10
Yes.
at the end. So I think so far this is great. I'd love to get some more. So there's that piece. Then the October committee will meet again after the deadline to vet all the applications, and then our actual juror committee will meet in early September, late August, early September. They will select. And we're on track to confirm all of those jurors. And then once we have one selected, we will also engrave the same gift that we did last year. Was that a cutting board? Right, yeah, which everyone really likes, and I think that's really nice. It's a local woodworker who does that for us. And then for the actual event, last year we did a pretty big award ceremony at the theater. It wasn't very well attended. So this year what we're thinking, also with Bay closed and a couple of other things moving around, we thought we might do an award ceremony and networking event at Chimera instead. It still has space for lots of people, but also if fewer people come, it doesn't feel like it's not well attended. And we will do an actual official award ceremony. We'll recognize all the nominees, and we'll do name tags and networking. That way also, we're not spending budget on food that people don't eat, but people can still buy their own. They can get drinks. They'll have coffee, they'll have alcohol. So the goal is to have it Tuesday, October 1st to kick off October, kind of do a combined celebration. So for that, we will do posters again, like last year. And so we'll talk to Clarissa again. I just need to confirm the exact time with Chimera before we talk to our designer. But then we've got a couple of updates. So we'll do a poster for that. I'd love in late September, some help hanging those, bringing those to businesses around town. And then instead of, last year we did a map that was a trifold with some events on the back. And so as soon as we printed it, there was a big storm and one of the big events got moved and our map was out of date. So what we'll do this year instead is we're just gonna print a map, and we'll have the map as a takeaway at the opening, the award ceremony. And there's not gonna be anything on the back, but it's just gonna be a pretty map of art things in Bangor that will hopefully not be out of date quite as quickly, and that people might want to hang on their walls or in their businesses. So I think that'll be really great. And I think that's it. Any questions?
No.
Okay.
Not yet.
Yes. Cool, so we may not have the actual winner confirmed by our next meeting in September, but right around that time. But it's also one of those things where we keep it really quiet until the actual ceremony. So we invite all the nominees and then that's the big announcement of who won. Great. Let's move right along. We have some staff updates.
Yes, I wanted to talk to the group about, the public restroom art project. We were hoping to be able to work through the commission, because it's in public spaces, any art that goes into, city-owned property has to go through the commission, so, in this case, you know, we were hoping that you would take the lead on it just to help us, you know, find the artists and, you know, kind of come up with a proposal. Maybe pick one or two. We will be able to put some money towards supplies, things like that, for the artists, so, you know, a budget to go along with that would be helpful, as well, so we just know, what we're looking at for costs. And, yeah, I think it's a good opportunity to, you know, do some artwork in our public bathrooms, and, so if anybody has any beginning thoughts or how you wanna arrange it, if you wanna make it part of a committee's work, cultural asset, however you wanna do it.
A couple of initial thoughts are, I did talk to some experienced muralists over the past few weeks about this. A couple of ideas that we've also talked about in the past, we've talked about this project a few times, is that we'd love to involve some local students. So we can talk to some of the local art teachers and kind of have a focus on that, but I do think we could make it a public call for entries and then we select whoever. And right, we've got, I think, 4 or 5 bathrooms installed so far.
Yeah, we were
So-
thinking the first year, maybe do 1 or 2,
Okay.
just to see how it works,
Yeah.
and, yeah,
That
and
sounds
then go
great.
from there.
Yeah, so we can. Yeah, is there anybody who has questions or other initial thoughts?
I think it's good, and I do think it's great to bring in the students that are trying. And the high schools have some very creative kids. Art's not their thing, per se, if you want to put it that way. They're not going on to college for art. But and still have artistic abilities.
Yes.
Great fun.
What are we thinking the budget's gonna be for the artists?
It's more, you know, to cover supplies, we don't have a number, so we were hoping to get a number from you so that we can figure out, okay, how can we, you know, make this work?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question. What's the material? I've seen one of your apprentice file, but like, what is the material they're made out of?
That is,
Is that metal?
it's metal, but
Yeah, it's
that is
metal.
actually one of the things I talked to a muralist about, and their idea was to paint on wood panels so that you can also paint in a studio that would then be installed permanently, so they could be
Mhm.
hung, they could also be fixed more easily.
Mhm.
That might be the better approach rather than painting, because they're also, it's not quite
Corrugated,
corrugated, but
yeah.
sort of like corrugated material,
Yeah.
so painting on that is gonna be complicated. But I think we could probably talk to someone at the city about. Public
Yeah.
Works and Rec about being able to permanently hang some wood panels.
Yep.
But if it is metal, then you have to be careful what kind of paint you use.
Hmm.
It would need to be a
Yeah.
high quality paint to withstand the weather and everything.
Yeah, I think it'd have to be high quality mural paint. Anyway, even if they
Mhm.
paint on wood, because they're gonna be hanging outside.
Okay.
So I'd love to see if anybody here would like to take the lead on putting together an RFP. Or call for entries, and I'm happy to help with that. With Artober and being chair of Artober committee, I don't want to take the lead by myself. But I have submitted to many art calls, so I'm happy to help support writing a call for entries. And we can also pull in, or we can talk to the people at Bangor Beautiful. Because they have vast connections and lots of experience. So that might be good.
I can do the RFP,
Great.
but I need help.
Yes, we can do it together.
Okay.
Great. And I think maybe it should fall under cultural asset committee.
Mhm.
And if you're not currently a member of the cultural asset committee, then,
Come on over.
but that's not a committee that requires a lot of meetings, so,
I'm okay with that.
great.
Right.
All right.
And then the other project is, as you probably have seen, we're renovating the Pickering Park area downtown, and incorporated into that design are gonna be panels for art installations. And so this is another project we would love to have the commission take the lead on in terms of, you know, again, doing sort of that call for entries, you know, for artwork to be placed there. Realistically, the project is, you know, under construction right now. It probably won't be, it'll be done this construction year, so realistically, we wouldn't do an installation probably until spring of 2025, and it sounds like that probably works better with the schedule, with everything else we have going here. So that might be something that the call for entries happens during the winter, and then you can do a spring installation. So it's pretty exciting, and I think what we were thinking at a staff level is that, you know, it might be sort of a quarterly installation, so every 3, maybe it's 4 months, it changes out. But we're, you know, we're still open to suggestion on that as well.
Do
of
we
what's
know,
best.
do we know what the material is or what that space looks like? Like,
I'll
are they
send you
like
the
lock
spec.
boxes, or does it have to be hung on the outside and be?
I think it's gonna be in sort of in a box, but let me
Okay.
get the spec and I'll send that to the group.
Okay.
So you can see what it looks like.
So is there a budget to pay artists for that, or is that expected to be
Tracy has joined us.
just public exposure?
There's no budget right now, but that's something to think about when we look at next year's budget. You know, to think about, do we wanna, you know, have a budget for that? Cause there isn't one in the current fiscal year for this.
I mean, at least an honoraria or something.
Yeah, some kind of a stipend or, yeah.
I suppose an artist could apply for a grant from us for a public installation in that space. But they'd have to get both the grant and be selected for
In the right time frame.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a big project not to have a
Yeah.
budget for.
Maybe the first installation, just thinking out loud, is maybe working with the high school. For that first installation, because in the spring, you know, they'll have had some of the academic year behind them to, you know, have products, you know, to display and.
Yeah, and depending on how protected
Works.
it is, you could hang artwork, but I do worry about weather and just
Yeah.
how protected, you can't just hang anything potentially.
Correct.
If there's a protection, I'm envisioning
I
a
believe
box
there is,
with,
yeah.
with a clear cover.
Yeah,
There could be exhibits of
yes.
young student work too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's always popular.
and we could prioritize group shows over individuals potentially. Or just be open to both in the call.
yeah.
And can you briefly describe what that space is gonna look like? Will there be other like public art or sculpture or anything there?
Yeah, I'll send the specs out and I'll send them over to you so that you can see what it looks like, because I don't have that with me.
Any other?
Yeah, bring up my things.
Yeah.
So I actually got a call before it was in the paper about somebody that heard about the Paul Bunyan statue and the kiosks and painting. So I hadn't heard about it yet because it hadn't been in the paper yet, and was a little concerned because I know that we had been asked to come up with the wording for the plaque, and I hadn't heard anything about it. But the person that called me, just wanted to know if there was going to be some kind of celebration, a rededication, something that will attract people to coming, so I will put that out.
Okay, I
And
will
my,
find out
Do we have
in the
an
sun.
official timeline?
I don't know. Tracy, do you know?
Well, so Trace Willett, Parks and Recreation Director, a couple of things. The painting is gonna happen first. Our plan is, if weather cooperates, to start that next week. So we were hoping for an August timeframe, which seems to allow the best kind of weather for it. It's about a week process. They'll have to clean him, prepare the surface for repainting. It's probably been 14 years since we last painted Paul Bunyan. The kiosks that you referenced, we've started on those as well. So to answer the question, certainly we could prepare an unveiling type event once those are done and installed to acknowledge them. Yeah, we all recognize it's taken us some time to get here. I will share with you that Jay Martin has also been pretty involved in the process, Norman's son. So the back and forth with that certainly has taken some time as well. It was valuable to include Jay in that, given he's Norman's son, and making sure that everyone involved got a chance to have their input. So those are in production as well. The thought was to get the painting done first and then work on installing the kiosks. So back to official timeline, that'll really depend on the painting. We're keeping our fingers crossed to make sure that the weather cooperates. But you should see that start to happen next week.
Great.
maybe there could be some kind of celebration in October.
I was just thinking that
Part of
too.
our
Sure,
tour.
no, we can. We
Yeah.
don't want to time it out. Certainly happy to have a discussion with whomever on sort of a official unveiling of the kiosks, or at least acknowledgement that they're there. It's going to be a valuable piece to add to the amenity over there. As you all know, he's visited just about every day by somebody. So finally have that project done is going to be a big win for us. So we're looking forward to it.
Great. So are we.
Thank you, Tracy.
All right.
And Nina, my other thing is just a reminder that since the Bay is closed and people may be looking for a performance place, that the Bangor Masonic Foundation owns part of what was the Bangor Theological Seminary. And the Wellman Commons there is available for rental for performances. And the rates are pretty comparable to what the Bay was charging. I think it's $300 for half a day and $500 for a full day.
Yeah, I don't know. if
That's
the
great to
city wants
know, yeah. I've been to Avenza, it's beautiful space.
It is beautiful space.
Yeah.
Who would someone contact about that, Barbara? I didn't catch all of that.
There is a website for the Bangor
Website.
Masonic Foundation.
Okay. We get asked from time to time here about that kind of space. So that is great to know. Thank you.
I don't think that hill falls into the downtown area officially, so while I would say we can also let the Downtown Bangor Partnership know,
Yeah,
that may not be within their purview.
it's close.
Yeah. All right. Any other commissioner thoughts, things to bring up, things to discuss?
Is the Wabanaki Center going to take over the public sculpture issue? It's here, but they are, well, this is expected. I'm looking.
That was in our notes. We had talked about it. That project is on hold. That budget was not approved.
Yeah.
Same with, oh yeah, I don't think we've had a meeting since official budget approval. So the sculpture piece that we had been working on trying to get money to put a sculpture in the place of the plaque that was removed a few years ago. That's on hold. I don't have updates. We did get
Yeah.
approval. I know there are a few other ideas circulating around the city about what to do with that space. So maybe that's why, but we will stay tuned. The other thing is the calendar project was also not approved. And we'll keep working on it. I really want to make it happen and I really want to try, so I have talked to a few people who've had some ideas. And we will have some more conversations, so hopefully next year we will have a stronger proposal.
Can we write our own grant to our?
Yeah. Oh, well, no, because then we can't, because we'd all have to recuse ourselves from actual voting, but we can officially apply for grants from other organizations. Because we, through the city, count as a nonprofit or a government entity.
Right.
And there are some, and I had already started research for the sculpture project for grants. But we could also see if there's something for the calendar project. That's a good idea. Let's think about that more. And if anybody comes across any interesting grants, RFPs or anything, let me know.
And we do have a grant writer on staff who can help to.
Great.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
So with the public sculpture project, was it just that the budget wasn't approved, or was the project itself? Like, so if an artist were to get like their own grant to do it, would it be easier to facilitate making that public sculpture happen?
I don't know the answer to that question.
I can find out.
Yeah, I have heard that there were other ideas for that space. But I don't know for sure.
For those of you who don't know where the space we're talking about, it was where the Gomez
Yeah.
piece was down on Kandusky, where the stream, Kandusky stream flows into the river. And that had to be removed, and that is now on the lawn of Bangor Bangor Historical Society. It is on that lawn. When it was moved from there, it may have gone to storage, God only knows, I don't remember. But I know this is where it's placed. and
Well, the
that
plaque
the
is,
space.
it's at the historical society.
I know it's there, but I mean, I don't know if it went from A to B. But that's the space if you didn't know what we're talking about.
On the way to the Sea Dock.
Yes, exactly.
Depends on which way you go to the
That's
city.
true.
But if you turn left, that traffic light, it's there.
So, not sure, but we will have some more conversations about it and we will see what we can find out.
I can put it on your next agenda as a check-in.
Great, thank you. All right. We have some other visitors with some other business. And for those of you who haven't joined a commission meeting before, if you would like to speak, we do need you to sit at the table. And we can pull up some extra chairs because it's a public meeting and the microphone needs to hear you. So let's talk about the public space for artists. And I believe we have Hope and Sam here, is that right?
Hi, everyone. Might need to scoot a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, go for it.
Hi, everyone. If you don't know me already, I am Hopai, a local artist, and this is Sam Bullard, another local artist. We have been involved in the Bangor art scene since about 2020. We are heavily involved. I have a full-time job other than art, so I haven't been as dependent on art, but have seen it through the lens of Sam and other artists that access for being an artist in Bangor could be better for folks who don't have as much startup capital or who just don't really know what they're doing yet. So we have gone to Portland. I know it's the big city, so things are way different there, but we've gone to Portland and experienced their First Fridays. And through that lens, we have noticed that artists just set up on the sidewalk as a first come, first serve, sell your wares kind of process. And we thought that would be a really good idea for Bangor. And Portland has this awesome system with a rule book and ordinances already set up for First Fridays and the farmers market as well, which is more of a community market now, which it's a great idea for another time, but we'll stay on task for now. And we were thinking that it would be a great idea to implement that for here, to have allowances for buskers and artists to set up like they do in bigger cities and just let their art free within reason, of course, so nothing inappropriate or offensive, but we want to help Bangor promote the arts as Paul Bunyan on the side of Central Street Farmhouse wants us to do. So we wanted to run it by you. We have a petition out now. It's got about 139 signatures.
Yep, 139 last I checked.
With comments of support, and we have other stories of support to promote this kind of effort for the Bangor area. And of course, when we say First Fridays, we would be working with the First Friday committee, and we have some spots picked out, which I was supposed to have mapped out on GIS, but didn't have time this week.
We got them written.
But yeah, we have our primo spots written. Sam?
Yeah, so in terms of actual locations that we would consider, so it would be a set time and a set place. We were thinking that the most ideal spot would be Norumbega and Hannibal Hamlin Parks, because it wouldn't interrupt any foot traffic directly to businesses other than the art museum. And honestly, with the ability to table right on the grass, it would give a lot of space for people to get there anyway. It wouldn't really interrupt traffic. It wouldn't really interrupt business either. It would bring more attention to the art museum, which is adjacent to artists selling their own art. And it's also a very large stretch, and we could start with one park and see if that's enough and expand it to 2 parks if we really get a lot of attention, a lot of people wanting to table, and that would probably allow for most of the people to fit. We wouldn't have to like send away people or say that they don't fit. Other alternatives that we thought would be really excellent are West Market Square and Broad Street to some degree. Not all of Broad Street works, but a good portion of it would work. And then we also have some backup spots, but those are like the 3 main spots we were thinking would work really well. I also want to add to basically our spiel on why we want to do this. Our biggest motivation is that right now, as it stands, Portland is one of the major art hubs in Maine. Even then, it doesn't offer nearly as many opportunities as other states have for their artists. And we want to encourage the arts in Bangor and Maine in general. I know that like Bangor and Portland are 2 of like the big cities here, and that's where people gravitate to. So we have a real potential to not only encourage Bangor artists, but artists from all around the state to create their works and sell it at a very easy to enter cost. A lot of people don't realize how expensive it can be to start tabling. For one, not everyone has a plastic table sitting in their basement. Not everyone can afford to even store that stuff. You have to have the setup to begin with. You usually have to have a tent. You also then have to consider, are there fees going into this? Most of the time it is. In fact, pretty much every opportunity that we have right now in Bangor costs a minimum of $50. And there are also certain markets that can take your $50 and then reject you from even tabling with them. So you've just gambled $50 and then lost a spot that like you never had to begin with. And when you do these markets too, it's not always guaranteed that you're going to break even. Like you might actually lose money trying to sell at markets because sometimes they're great and sometimes they don't hit at all. Sometimes it's 90 degrees out with 90% humidity and nobody wants to come out and look at your art. And sometimes there are other artists that attract certain people, and you might have a niche that speaks to a lot of people at one market and then speaks to no one at another. So it already is a hard enough burden for artists to take this gamble every single time they do a market. And then to add a tabling fee on top of that, that's a minimum of $50 and sometimes up to $200 just to participate, is a very high fee that blocks a lot of artists in our community from participating, especially low income artists and artists like myself that are
self-employed, and that is our only income. So I really, really want to break down that financial barrier and allow for our artists to flourish and get a good start, and they can focus on investing any money that they do have on getting the supplies to even do the thing. And I also want to mention that the other opportunity is to get to know businesses and display in their places, but oftentimes their displays are temporary. You might be able to have a spot on their wall once a year. You have to have the networking skills and the social connections, and sometimes it's very hard and intimidating to make those connections with big businesses and get to know their managers. Some of them are really terrific. Some of them are a little scary to talk to. And it's just really, really hard if something goes wrong or you burn a bridge and then suddenly you're closed off from all of the fancy art world in Bangor. And technically it's free to hang up on walls, but most places take up to 40% of whatever you sell. So you lose almost half of the amount of what your art is on their walls just for selling it there. And that's just kind of the current art etiquette right now. And there are some businesses that have slightly lower rates, but even then you're always losing something. So I just want an opportunity for artists to be able to sell their work for what it's worth, so that not only do they get what they feel they deserve for their piece, but they also don't have to up price their piece and sell it for something that they feel is like a little high, or they have to make it affordable to everyone else so that people can buy it and then lose half of their profit. So that is my main motivator for wanting to support this cause. I just really think there are too many barriers right now for artists to create and share their work. And I think this is a really, really easy and direct way to support them and make that opportunity a lot easier to access. If you want, we could share some testimonies. Do you want to?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, let me go pull that up real quick. I'll let you pick one first. So this is just responses that we got from the virtual signatures that we've been taking. We haven't done any like going around walking to people, handing out signature papers and having people sign on in person. All we've done is shared on social media and used a Google form to take signatures. So I think the fact that we already got almost 140 signatures in 2 weeks of just virtually putting it out there is a pretty good turnout.
Yeah.
And there are some really lovely comments in here too.
One comment in particular stood out to me. Permits shouldn't be required to create or sell creative pieces. It's also hard for people like me to get to Portland to be able to do so. Bangor is the closest place to me that I could do things like this. It's hard enough for artists as is. Let's make it a bit easier. That was one of the first 5 comments.
Also, thank you for doing this work. I'm excited to see the idea of more accessible and frequent markets for artists. Born and raised in Bangor, would love to see this happen. Very noble and important cause for the city, as we have lost 3 of our main artist-friendly venues this year. You wanna pick a few more?
I think we can do one more. Seems like a good use of the space. Maybe it could be timed with concerts on the streets that are limited for traffic. If we, oops, it's okay. If we close streets for national artists, we can close streets for the local artists. I mean, we already do that. And I understand there's permitting and like budgeting that needs to go into that, stuff like that. But our point is we just want to create access for more artists. And we think the First Friday thing would be a really easy win for artists in Bangor. We will probably be attending a GovOps committee soon-ish. When we're more prepared, we have a draft set of ordinances that we can propose. If not ordinances, we can make a plan together, because what we really want to do is just work with the city and work with the artists and art groups. I'll be attending a First Friday Art Committee meeting this Monday to also talk about this idea. And we just wanted to check in with y'all and see what you think.
I think a few of our commissioners have a few questions.
Of course.
Yep.
My first question, Tracy, it's Laverne Stockles asking you a question. They're talking about the 2 parks. Aren't they under you? The Nonburger and the other one, do they fall under you as Parks and Rec?
They do. They do.
But Parks and Rec is city, right?
Yeah, but I would like to hear what Tracy has to say.
Well, certainly, I think we're early in the conversation and as many of these ideas start and we're starting a conversation today, I think they've alluded to a bit of a process and discussion with us going forward. So certainly this is the start of that and they seem enthusiastic about it. So we're certainly open to having the conversation, the discussion and following it through the process as well. Certainly we've got some policy discussion, some ordinance discussion to have along the way. So this is certainly a start to that.
Thank you. Another question I have, and Ann, this is coming to you. In their proposal they put out, this paper, it reads, that we would be, a minimum of 4 feet open space must be obtained on the sidewalks for pedestrians. I'd like to know how wide our sidewalks are, because I measured my front walk that goes from my front porch to the street. And mine is 7 feet wide. If the sidewalks are 10 feet and they give us a minimum of 4, and that means if they were using those tent things, anything on, I think the smallest one, those probably are 4 feet square. If you have 2 people walking side by side on a sidewalk in the city with 4 feet, you have stated this in your proposal. That's not much space for people walking, meeting people, shopping, i.e. you've got bags, or somebody with 2 children on their side, headed or coming from anything. That's why my question is coming through on the sidewalk size of the city of Bangor. Because I think 4 feet, you'd be hugging the buildings and that's not proper.
And we do have a minimum clearance width, and I think it's 5 feet, but I don't know, Tracy, do you remember what that? I can look it up.
We took the 4 feet directly from Portland's
Yes.
policies.
Okay, but you took it from theirs, but I'm forgetting Portland. I'm concerned with Bangor at this point in time. All of Portland's regulations may not be proper for Bangor.
I would assume that there is an accessibility minimum.
Yeah, I
That's
think
a
it's standard,
standard.
but I'll double check that.
So we can
Okay,
take
good.
a look at that. Okay.
Because I was taking that question out of their proposal.
Right.
It's another reason why we really think Norumbega and Hannibal Hammond would be the most ideal spots, because being able to set up on the grass rather than the sidewalk definitely allows that minimum to be
That's
more than
where you need
achieved.
to be with Tracy too.
Yeah, I was just gonna add that thought that those 2 park spaces, I think, make a lot of sense for something like this. Especially, and I always forget, Norumbega is the bigger one.
Yeah.
I think that one probably makes the most sense because the walkway goes around both sides. You could set up kind of all around. There's just more space there to make something like this happen. And, just thinking about how they do this in Portland, I'm assuming Parks and Rec probably handles, additional trash removal for those type of events. So we would just want to make sure if we're going to use a space like that, that it's adequately set up to have enough, waste receptacles and,
But here they say they are responsible for all of their trash.
Mhm.
And I don't know if the trash containers in those parks.
You mean that artists would be responsible for taking their own trash? back
Yes,
home?
that's what they said.
Yep.
I printed it.
is the pedestrian.
Right, if people stop at Chimera and get a drink and then
Yeah.
they have nowhere to put the cup when they are done, that might cause issues, but I think it's a fantastic idea.
And I think that's a fair consideration to make. I don't think it should be too hard to get one trash can out there and people can point to it.
There's receptacles in those parks.
Yep,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you anticipate? You have a question, Kelly?
I do. I think the first Friday thing's a great idea. Can you guys hear me? I'm not sure. Okay. I think the first Friday is a great thing. They actually have it in a lot of cities I've lived in, but I think security is going to be a concern as well with the current climate in Bangor. But I think that coming soon with the Street Plus, that might help, but I think that's something that needs to be considered at these events is gonna be some type of layer of security, and is a city responsible for that, or Parks and Recs, or, cause there is. I think that's something that we have to be concerned with. I mean, the artist could potentially be getting robbed down there. It's, just something to think about.
Yeah. Right, I think there's lots of things to consider. And right, as Tracy said, this is the beginning of conversations. I think my question is, do you anticipate a kind of committee and application process, or just an ordinance change and time? First Friday is from 4 to 7 on Fridays, first Friday of the month. And this space is available and open to anybody who shows up.
Yeah.
We were thinking far more the second one, like let it become its own regulating thing, so long as people understand the rules and are abiding by them.
We
they
can
should
still
be
have
able
the
to.
overarching committee to serve as kind of like a board to First Fridays, making propaganda for it. Making sure that people know what's up, know the rules, but essentially at almost a self-governing body where they just show up and do the appropriate thing, and we have art.
Seems to work pretty organically in Portland, and it's a much larger city that is prone to much more of the vulnerabilities that people are concerned about. I think you'd get a lot less of that in Bangor. Bangor's a pretty happy community.
Deering Oaks has a big thing going down there often. Are you people involved? Do you do that big, they have all kinds of things, farmers markets, etc. at Deering Oaks, which is a huge park down there.
I certainly have friends who do that, but I don't have the time or the money to get down there and get
And do
involved.
they
with it and stuff.
charge?
Yeah, they charge typically for like farmers markets and such.
My other question is, and whoever, I know this article, this is where I first heard about it, is the article that came out in the BDN. And this was showing, you're talking sidewalks, and this isn't from a picture from the art show, on which the art festival, is that going to affect the Bangor Art Show that you just happened and such, something like this? Did any of you participate in that?
Yes, we were at
You're
that.
good at it.
Yep, we've been at multiple fairs. We've
And
been
then
at the
Paid
sidewalk.
the fees,
Yes, we paid the fees.
yes, and
But not everyone can afford that, and I do think that both can exist very happily together. I think that it is important to have different levels of accessibility into the community and the different benefits that the arts can create. I think that having a more polished and put together org like the Sidewalk Art Festival and the main micro artisans night markets do have their own benefits, because they do a lot of really big publicity. They can tell you who's going to be there beforehand, and people can like advertise that. They definitely give shout outs to people. They provide a little bit more direction on like where people are located. There are definitely benefits to them existing, and this doesn't have to be clashing against them at all. I think it's just creating more opportunities for
you
artists.
have social media sites to promote this event.
I mean, we have our own artist pages.
Yeah.
They're not the most popular pages,
But they exist.
we do promote things there.
And I think, right, we would ask anybody who participates to share on their pages. We could potentially ask the city to share if it's an official ordinance and this is an official event that happens. Bangor already has a First Friday,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
we've already
that's
got,
already
It would just be
something
working with the committee that
Exactly.
already exists.
Right.
Bangor Art Society is the one that runs that, and most of their members have already like talked with us and said that they're on board for the idea. A few of them even signed the
Now,
petition.
the ordinance comes under who?
The city council.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in terms of process, it has to, as Tracy indicated, government ops, committee of the council, and then it goes to full council.
We're just the first check mark on a long list of.
Yes.
Yes,
marks.
a bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Some logistical questions on
Sure.
my end.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi, Sam.
Does the Portland sidewalk art ordinance have any sort of like equipment requirements or rules in that way?
Not exactly.
Like you can't use public benches and such. You gotta bring your own chairs and set up.
Okay.
That's like the most explicit one I know of. Do you know of any other restrictions? Most people don't seem to bring tents.
Yeah, like obviously don't be offensive, don't be mean. That's another basic restriction.
Right. I think going forward, given the current climate, I think having a more specific outline of like, if you're going to do this, you need to bring X, Y, and Z or A, B, and C piece of equipment that has, you know, a table or a blanket or something like that would be helpful. I've never been to the Portland one, so I just didn't, I have no like visual as to like what that actually looks like. And then I do think, again, given the current political climate, that there needs to be some sort of content moderation. I think that's going to come up. Like some sort of like what is allowed, what is considered lewd, or you know, something that people might complain about. It's just come up before.
Interesting.
Who would govern it?
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
is that
That's what I'm
something-
trying to figure out.
That you would, in theory, govern, or would you appoint someone, or how would that work? And I
It's
guess-
hard to say because, you know, the arts is a weird place.
Yeah.
But. Oh, gosh, dude, not
It's
to say
okay
that
if
we
you don't
trust
have an
artists to like govern themselves.
I think you can definitely build in like a brief sentence or something into the
Just an
rules
example.
around it, like
Yeah,
a code of etiquette, like make sure you clean up after yourself. Don't have any of this specific content, like no full frontal nudity or something.
I think that would be helpful, just as this starts moving through.
because we're thinking the arts on First Fridays, we're thinking like busking, performing arts. Maybe like a sewing circle if someone like gets that involved.
Now, I'm sorry, I've got all kinds of questions. on
Or
this.
maybe at some point, well, I'm not sure. Thank you, Barbara.
Ms. Peak.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What you have said, the visual arts. Now, you have come into, you're using paintings, portraits, blah, blah, blah. There are other very fantastic visual arts that people do, i.e. working with fabrics and mosaics and such. Reading your thing or woods and things, that's not part of the arts.
This says
That
other
doesn't
handmade
exist.
artistic works. I
Yeah.
think this is pretty
Yeah.
comprehensive.
Yeah.
And I don't think this excludes any visual or performing art.
I myself do more than just paintings. I experiment with various mediums and I have plenty of success selling those at things like this, and we would want that to be included, absolutely.
Yeah, I think one thing I think you want to be careful of is you don't get a situation where somebody purchases items from, I'll say, China. And
Drop ships.
and then
Yeah.
tries to sell those as part of it. I mean, it should be handmade.
It's kind of part of the
original.
hazard of the job, though. There's almost impossible to tell.
But there is, at least in Portland's rules, that you have to be selling original works.
Yeah.
So like, even though it's hard to know that for sure and to regulate it, it is at least like, you're kind of going by their code and promising that you're selling your original works when you show up. Like, that's part of the rules. So if they've read it, hopefully they understand that.
I think one thing to consider, and this probably would be a city and further down question, is if someone breaks the rules, how do we enforce that they don't return? And I think there's potential that that would never happen, but if there are some rules, then enforcement has to be considered.
That's right. Do you have any thoughts on that, Hope?
You don't have to have an answer on that. right?
Yeah,
I
just
think
these
that's
are
a-
things we have to think about.
That's later down question.
Yeah, I had a question and a thought. I think the question was answered though. So I'm Sundance, by the way. This is my first meeting. Sorry to be late, but here I am. The question I had, I think, was answered. So First Friday through Bangor Arts, that's also through Downtown Bangor Partnership too.
Yeah,
is
they
that right?
kinda,
Yeah,
they work
yeah.
together on it.
Yeah, it's always good to come together with other organizations, and this would be a great opportunity to, often what you see is what you recognize, right? And so, the more we can be doing on First Friday to make it a thing, the better.
Yeah.
I'm knowing that the theater gives a half off ticket, or you can get a free appetizer somewhere isn't, it doesn't jump out at you, but certainly a park full of artists does.
Yeah.
So, so thank you for leading this effort. I'd say, and this obviously just speaking from personal viewpoint, since this is my first meeting, take it for what it's worth. Anything to reduce barriers for emerging artists, I think would be great. And I think that's probably universally accepted. And so this seems like this is early in the dialogue for doing that. You probably never get to zero barriers, because things happen, and I'm sure that's what Ann and Tracy were referring to. I know being a part of Pride Festival, come down the day after, people are supposed to take what they brought, but it doesn't always happen. So there's always some cleanup, some other resources, if it's for security or for, other things. So, again, I'm supportive of, anything that reduces barriers to all artists, especially emerging artists. And hopefully we can find a way to do some of that.
Yeah, thank you. Barb.
I would like to, although this is still early, move that the commission back this idea. We would like to see a full conception, but I think it's a wonderful idea. I know in France, they have a National Art Day, and there's music on every corner and art all over the sidewalks. And yeah. And so I would love Bangor to be like that. So the further along that we can get to that, I think the better. So I move that we endorse this position.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Great. Everybody in favor? You
No, I
also.
think I had a question, but I didn't, I don't know Robert's Rules of Order all that well, so I didn't know if I could pose the question, but yeah, I guess I'm in favor. I am in favor.
You can ask another question.
No, so the question, are we proposing, like, moving forward in spirit to support this, or specifically supporting the rules and regulations? Okay.
Yeah, right. We support your idea. We understand that there are still some details to be worked out that are outside of our purview. But clearly there are people whose purview that is within. And so, I think in general, you have the commission support. We're excited about this idea. Let us know if there's anything specific that we can help with. As you move forward, we've got various expertises on the table. And right, as you move through other committees and then city council, let us know if having in-person support would be helpful.
And doing it next month because it takes.
Yeah. I figured this would be like
We're gonna do it
next
tomorrow.
spring or summer start.
Unless Hope paid you.
That's what I'm saying.
No, there's no conflict, so you can,
Because-
that's fine.
You've got two different, you've got
Yeah, of
several
course.
different units of the city.
Hope's art
To get something before it can ever go to the committee, before it can ever be presented, before it can ever go to council. You're looking, no, it's a winter.
I don't know that many artists would want to start tabling in the snow either. One other thing I wanted to mention too, that I'm excited about with this project is I also think it would bring a lot more traffic to downtown and kind of help revitalize that community. I know we have some businesses that are going strong, but a lot of other ones are struggling, and getting more people to explore that area and make connections with it, I think would be great. And art's always a great way to pull people in and grab their attention that otherwise wouldn't come to downtown. So
If you haven't planned yet, I would suggest you join the Downtown Bangor Partnership at one of their meetings, just to get their support and let them
okay.
in at the beginning. They can be very supportive, and right, they bring together all the business owners.
I can email Betsy and ask her about
Fantastic.
it.
Who should we talk to next within like the city's
Yeah,
bureaucracy?
between me and Tracy, yeah,
Okay.
we can
I
set
know
up a
Tracy.
time to, yeah.
Okay.
All
Meet
right,
with you.
great. Any other business? Any other questions? Anything else? Great. Meeting adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Everybody.